Hey guys, here we are with another Unity tutorial. I know I haven't uploaded one of these in a while, so it's about time. So in this tutorial what we're going to learn is how to create a room generator that will create us a room in Unity. So going with my new format, I'm going to start by showing you the end result and then we'll start the tutorial so you see if you are interested in learning what happens here. So the first thing I'm going to do is hit play so you can see it. When we hit play, we look at our scene and you look at all these objects that are created. And what happens here is you have a wall prefab, you have a door prefab, you have a floor prefab, and a block prefab. And so your game by itself automatically will generate all these objects and they will be placed correctly and you will have the blocks placed randomly. You can't really see it right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all the floor prefabs, deactivate them, and this way when I hit X here you're going to see it much better. Now you can see the walls clearly, you can see the floor. The floor is the ones that are not there, the white spaces, and these are the blocks. And so in this case I use blocks, but you can use anything. But in this case it's blocks. You could add box colliders to them, to the prefabs. Oh, well, they already have mesh colliders, so in that way you can make your player push them around. You have doors over here and over here, and this way your player can go into a room, do whatever you have to do. Maybe you can place chests, maybe you can place anything you need, and this way you have a randomly generated level. You can have as many levels as you want and you don't have to invest too much time. So now that you guys can see what's gonna happen, you can decide if you want to continue watching, and if so, I'm gonna stop the game and I'm going to delete my everything so you guys can see step by step what was done here. I'm gonna delete all my prefabs. Yes, delete. I'm gonna delete my script. And so I have to remove it from my room generator, but what I'm gonna do is kill the room generator too. And so now that everything is done, this is a new project, only has a main scene, there's nothing special about it. So I'm gonna create an empty game object. I'm gonna call it room generator, and I'm going to go to my scripts and I'm gonna create a new C# script. It's gonna be called procedurally generated room. Good. And now I'm gonna add this script to my room generator. You never forget this. And then we need to create a few prefabs. So what I did is I created a resources folder and a prefabs folder. And so to create a prefab, I'm gonna go to 3D object, quad, and I want my room tiles to be 2 by 2. So my quad is gonna be 2 by 2, and I'm gonna bring it to the origin 0, 0, 0. I'm gonna rename this floor prefab, and I'm gonna place it in my prefabs folder. Now that I have my floor prefab, I'm gonna create a new prefab, just change the name of this one, wall prefab, and I'm gonna drag it and drop it here. I have my floor and I have my walls and I need my blocks. So I'm gonna do the same thing. You change the name, block prefab, you drag it and drop it over here, and now you have all the 3 prefabs the same size. Now I need 2 kinds of door prefabs. I need the door prefab that's gonna go Y and the door prefab that's gonna go X. So I'm gonna rename this to door prefab X, and I'm going to extend the X scale to 4. I want it to be double the size of a normal tile. So I just drag it and drop it over here, and then I change the name to door prefab Y, and I change this to 2. Move the Y up to 4, the same way that I did before, and I drag it and drop it over here. And now we have all our 5 prefabs, and that's just very good. I'm gonna delete this one So we already have the prefab, we don't need that. And so we're going to go right into the coding part. Whatever, it's because I deleted everything. But okay, the first thing we need to do here is think of which parts of Unity, which voids are we going to use of these preset ones. And thus, I am sure I'm not going to use update. And I'll use start. I could use unenable, but it doesn't matter. So the first thing we need to do, as always in your programming, you need to think of your variables, what you're going to need, and you can add other things later. But right now, what I think that I will need is a few public ints. So what are these ints? These ints are how many tiles in X I want, how many tiles I want in Y. I also need to know how many blocks the map can have, because it will not always be the max amount. And I also need to know what the % chance of that happening is. So I'm gonna call it block create generation % chance. I know it's not, you should not call your variables so long names, but they have to be descriptive so you never forget what they're about. So now that we have that, I also need a few public game objects. And these game objects are the prefabs. So we have 5 game objects: block, door X, door Y, floor. So I'm gonna call it block prefab, door prefab X, door prefab Y, and finally, we need 2 more, which is wall prefab, and finally floor prefab. I tend to forget things, so you just gotta check your stuff out. Doesn't have to be the same name. I just use very descriptive names so I never forget. And always, your variables should usually start with a non-capital letter, and then every word after that should have a capital letter. That's called camel case, as camels have things on their backs, but whatever. So now we have this. What do we need other than this? I don't think we need anything. So what we have to do, what I will do, is I will create a void, and that's gonna be called generate room. And in start, you call it, just activate this function. And so this function, what it's gonna do is gonna cycle through these 2 variables as if they were, because they are, a 2-dimensional array, and then it's gonna add whatever is required. So the first thing I'm gonna do it step by step, is I'm gonna create the for loops. So you create for loops. I is less than x tiles, and then I++, which means I was gonna go forward. I hope you guys know what this means. If you don't, you should go check out my basic Unity tutorials. So while this is happening, I also need for int j equals 0, while j is lesser than y tiles, j++. So for this first step, I'm gonna generate floors everywhere, just so you guys can see the difference. So I'm gonna do floor prefab, game object. I like keeping track of my game objects through doing this, my instantiated game objects. So I'm gonna instantiate floor prefab. I'm gonna instantiate it. Where am I gonna instantiate this prefab? So since I'm gonna cover the whole map, and I know that my size is 2, they're squares, tiles, so I am gonna create a new vector 3, and this vector 3 is gonna be y times 2, j times 2, and 0. My rotation is gonna be just transform that rotation, which means don't change it, and then my parent is going to be this, my game object parent. And by game object I meant transform transform.parent. This will not do anything currently, but what's going to happen is if you want to create a parent for everyone, you just assign it as over here, game object, and you just give them the parent so they are well parented and not just orphans, which is not you want all your game objects to have a parent to be organized, especially this could be like 100 tiles, so you don't want it to be like I showed at the start of the video, but that's tutorial part 2 probably. So here we go with generate room. We're going to hit play, see if this works. It's compiling. My room generator needs my X tiles and my Y tiles, so I'm gonna do 5 and 5. I'm gonna do 10 and 10, 100 tiles, so you can see the speed. And you have to never forget to place your prefabs. The prefab Y, the prefab X, block, prefab, wall, and floor. And now I save and I hit play, and there we go. We have a 10 by 10 grid of floors. But floors by themselves are boring, don't you guys think? So we're going to add walls. And oh, I think I hit play again. Yeah. Okay, in order to add walls, what we're going to do is we're going to change the logic over here. This logic's way too simple for walls. So we need to check out the values of these variables. And so what I'm going to say is if y equals 0 or j equals 0. If y equals 0 or j equals 0, that means we're at the leftmost part or the topmost part or the bottommost part in this case. And then if y equals x tiles minus 1, because y will never be equals to x tiles, or j equals y tiles minus 1. Never forget to do double equals, because then if you don't, Unity will complain. So if they do this, if they are there, now this is an else. So what's happening here is if we are the leftmost, topmost, rightmost, or bottommost, we will create walls. So game object new wall equals this same thing, just changing this wall prefab. Else, which means if we're not at these points, then we just create this. And then we're going to go to Unity, wait to compile, and check if that works. And there we have it. We have a beautiful bunch of walls. And then after this wall, there has to be a floor. The best way to demonstrate this is to write floor over here, select all your floors, and deactivate them. So you can see floors are in the middle and walls are outside, which is exactly what we want. So we're moving forward. Now that we have this, the next logical step is to place doors. So how do we place doors? Doors are way more complicated than walls and floors, since you know we have to select the exact spot where doors are. How do we select that? Well, you need to add to this logic. In this case, where do I want my walls? I want my walls to always be, my doors. I want my doors to always be around the middle of the wall in all 4 walls. So what's the middle of a wall? Well, in this case, the middle of a wall, I'm gonna assume you guys are gonna use, I'm gonna comment on this, and I'm gonna comment procedurally generates room with box, use even numbers. Why even numbers? Because I want, for example, I want 10 by 10, I want 6 by 6, I want 16 by 16, and just, has to have a 2 in it. So in that case, if it has a 2 in it, what you do is you do if I equals x tiles divided by 2 and j equals 0. So what this means is, if I'm in the center of the x-axis, almost, I have to explain this in a second, and at the bottom of or top of the y-axis, then create a door. So I'm gonna copy this, change the name, new door prefab x, because it's an x. And then the positioning is really important. Why is the positioning important? Well, you see the doors are twice the size of a normal tile, which means normal tiles are going to have a problem. They're going to complain. They want to be the same size. I'm going to add this right now, just so I don't forget. They want to be the same size. So if I just hit play with this, I'm going to show you guys. If I just hit play, what's going to happen is I have a door inside. There's the door. I have a tile that's almost touching the door. I'm going to show you when I get close up so you guys can see this. This is the door. So if I click, you can see this square has some other wall instead of the door, and this square also has some. Like, there's a problem there. So what I have to do right now is adjust my code. The first thing I need to do is subtract 1 from this, because this is not the center. I need to be a little to the left. And after that, I have to subtract 1 for this, from this. And that way, our door is going to be generated at the center, which is exactly where we want it. Let's check it out. Our door should be over here. There it is. And now it has 1 block to the left that should not be there, and now we have to fix that. In order to fix that, what we do is we add a conditional over here. We don't want to generate a wall at this spot. So if not that, generate a new wall. So let's try it. Let's check it out. Check out our door, and we know it's over here. As you can see, a block was generated where it shouldn't have been generated, so I'm gonna do some tests. So what we have to do is we change our logic to this. Else if not 2 spots behind this, then create walls. In that way, when we hit play, we can see that the wall that was obstructing our door is no longer there. We cannot, there's walls over here, but it's no walls over there. And that's good. That's what we need. So in the same vein, I'm going to fast forward a little through this part, but you will be able to see the final result. So I'm just going to create new else ifs. I'm going to do else if. And so what goes in here? The opposite. We just copy this and paste it, and we switch the y for a j, the x for a y, the j for an I. That's it. And that way we have another one. We create a new door at that spot. We stop. We take off this -1 because we don't need it here. We need it at the j position. That way it gets generated at the right spot. And thus I'm not gonna check this right now, so just I can continue so you guys don't watch this for like half an hour. Another else if, and this is gonna be, this was on the center of the left wall, right? Yeah, the left wall and the center of the bottom wall. So now we're gonna do the top wall, which is top wall is y tiles. When this is equals to y tiles -1, and this is equals to this, which means it's in the center, but it's in the top wall. And then we do else if we switch the axis on this, y, x, y, oh, y, and we create our brackets, we pull out our doors, and so again this is the top and the center, top wall, center. So we do need a door prefab x. We need this to be -1, and we need this to be fun. And then this is the opposite. We need the door prefab y, and we need to switch this to, oh yeah, this is fine. This should be fine. So what we're gonna see right now is a bunch of doors in walls, but again we have to add the conditional to this part. But I mean, let's check it out. Just let's check it out, and then you guys can see that it's mildly messed up. You see how this is a problem? This is because I chose the wrong the wrong door for this one, but the other ones, this probably has some block in it, yeah, and this probably has some block in it, yep. So we need the conditionals in the bottom, and we need to change that door prefab x to y. Maybe it's this one. I think it's that one because it's on the left side. The y is, this is the left side, and when it's like this is the right side. Why? Because y is max, the maximum that it can be. It starts from the left, goes to the right, always. So we'll add the conditionals. So if this is not real, and this is not happening either, I'm just gonna copy this and paste it. Not happening. And that was the last one. So we get the second, the third one. That's not happening. And oops, and the second one, because I already have the first one, this one's not happening either. So when those are not happening, then create a wall. That will get rid of the extra walls. So let's save, check out, wait for the compiling, and then hit play. Now let's check out the walls. Door. Oh, it still has a.
Still generated the wrong wall in the wrong spot, so I'm gonna fix that real quick, and then I'll tell you how I fixed it.
And so what we're gonna do is we are also going to check to change this minuses. Remember how we have 2 slots to the left here, so we need to do 2. No. We need to do 2 here. So it's on the one that varies. This one, save. We go to our Unity again, we hit play. And there's no problem anymore. We have all our doors set up perfectly. It just works. And so now that we have all our doors, all our walls, and all our floors, we need to place our blocks. So where do we place our blocks? We place our blocks randomly on the floor. So what I'm going to do is, when you create floors, only when we create floors, we generate blocks. I need a new function. I'm gonna call it void generate blocks. And with void generate blocks, I'm gonna call it every time I create a floor. Generate blocks. That way we skip a lot of code and we can have functional code. So this generates blocks, generates randomly, I'm gonna call it randomly generates blocks on top of floors. So what we do is we need this function to take in a vector 3. This is gonna be called tentative position. Tentative position, yeah, I like that. And so where is that my tentative position? Is at this same position. So this is the same vector 3, which means, you know, create it on top of the floor. So we have tentative position, and I'm gonna create, now I'm gonna make the random part of the whole deal. I'm gonna create an int, and that int is gonna be called int random block, and that int is gonna be equals to random dot range. I mean, it's gonna go from 0 to 100. And so when do we generate blocks? Well, we only generate a game object new block if instantiate if, so what's the deal here? So if random block is less than block generation percent chance, then we generate a block. How do we generate a block? Just the same way. Game object new block equals instantiate. Well, we're going to instantiate block prefab. We're going to instantiate it at tentative position. And what's a rotation? Transform the rotation. And the parent, you decide if you want a parent or not. I recommend you do get a parent, but again, that's part 2 of this tutorial. And transform dot parent. Okay, and now we have this beautiful block generation code. Also, there's another condition that I haven't mentioned, and that's we have to add each block to the list. So remember, we have this list of blocks. Do we have them? I think I didn't create it. I haven't created it. So what you do is you create a list of game objects, and you call it block list, and that's gonna be a new list of game objects. And so every time you generate a block, you add that block to the list. So list, then block list that add new block. And so in our if, we add if random block is less than block generation percent chance, and block list that count, which means all the blocks that are in there is lesser than amount of blocks. There you go. Then you generate a block. You have no way to do it other than this, because you could overflow your your map with blocks, and your player will probably not be able to move around. So I'm gonna say that my max amount of blocks is 50, and my block generation percent chance is, you know, let's say 35%. And I'm going to hit play. And now for the final part of the tutorial. I'm gonna do the same thing that I did before. I'm gonna select all the floors and deactivate them, and you can see right there that the blocks generated themselves, and they are randomly distributed. There's one over here at the door, there's another one over here, the doors are here, it's all good. I'm gonna do it again so you guys see how random this can get. Hit play, go to our scene, and remove the floors. Oops. And now I just do this, and it's completely random, all fine, all beautiful. Like, just have a little slot there. Part 2 is, I think the tutorial is on right now, so you guys can stop watching. I appreciate that you did. And so let's go to Enslate and talk more about our future tutorials. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you learned a lot. Well, hey guys, welcome to Enslate. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. And honestly, what I'm going to talk about is the next tutorials in the series. What I'm thinking is I'm going to do a few blocks that detect what's around them, and if there's a door, they're going to destroy themselves. And I'm gonna do doors that warp players, probably. I'm not sure, it depends on the reception of this first tutorial. And another thing I'm going to talk about is the next video is actually not going to be a tutorial, it's going to be my first game dev tips video, and it's going to be about game dev advice, what to do as your first game. That's very important. You can just follow tutorials, but at the end you probably want to do your first game. And so that's a great topic that I'm going to cover. It's going to take a few minutes. It's not going to be that long, honestly. This video was quite long, half an hour, so I'm just gonna have to put in the title because this end is gonna enlarge it by 1 minute or so. And I don't want people being confused or anything. Also, you need to check your creativity. You need to read books. You need to watch videos of other game developers. You need to do a lot of stuff. So, what I recommend is start working and become the best game developer you can be. Don't become one of those game developers that just go ahead and code FIFA for the 1000th time. Even if you're working on that, you should keep your passion in your heart and grow with your passion. Keep growing, keep doing new stuff. Look at me. I'm working in a company. Well, my company is great and we have very nice games, but still I try to learn. I try to go ahead and do new projects all the time. I try to teach you guys. I do whatever I can to help the community. So again, always, I'm forced to do this, but there's Patreon over there. I have one patron. I am very thankful for Peter. I'm gonna mention my patrons on every on end slates from now on. I'm gonna probably put him in the credits too. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll put him right now. So yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for hearing me ramble, and I'll see you guys later.